I mean, if we're doing a Stooge podcast, that's how we got to start it, right?
There is no better way. All right. Welcome all of our listeners and our viewers to the official Three Stooges podcast. I'm your host, Phil Landades, and alongside me is the true talents, 2/3 of the modern day Three Stooges, Andy Pagana, and the grandson of Curly Howard, Brad Server. Gentlemen, how are you two doing?
Oh, hiya, pal.
Oh, hey, Phil. Thanks for having us. I mean, wait, this is our show too.
Oh, yeah, it is our show. Okay, so I'm Andy Pagana.
And I'm Curly G, the youngest grandson of Curly Howard from the Three Stooges.
And there is one other good-looking gentleman over there. Today we are going to be speaking with Kurt Lamond. He's the great-grandson of Larry Fine, former crew member on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, a content producer at C3 Entertainment, and the owner-operator of the shop Knuckleheads Three Stooges merch shop. Very, very excited to have Kurt. Kurt, how you doing?
Oh, excellent. Thank you for that intro. I stopped listening after good looking. Appreciate that. Super happy to be here and that you're doing this and these two clowns with me. This is going to be fun.
But before we get to the interview with Kurt again, we got some great questions that we want to talk to you about. But Andy, is there a memorable Larry bit or just what do you think of when Larry Fine comes to mind?
You know, Larry more and more. Here's the thing. I probably laugh more at Curly, Mo, and Shemp. But when I do laugh, like the hardest I ever laugh is really Larry. And I think one, because he's so unpredictable. Mm-hmm. He comes out of just absolute left field. You just can't nail him down. And, you know, his facial expressions are funny. His voice is funny. He looks funny, obviously. But some of the things that he comes out of left field with, and I've mentioned this so many times, Disorder in the Court, when he just gets up and it's like, oh, whoa, whoa, ah!
Hey, you're in a court, not in the woods, Tarzan. Cut it out. Come on.
Three little twerps and I was surprised to find out, because I read the script recently, that this was actually a written line. The way Larry delivers it felt so just like Larry Fine coming up with this, but he's they're putting up a billboard and he shoves a brush into Mo's face and he turns around and he sees Mo looks like he's got a beard and he's like,
"Bathe it, Grandpa. We got no time for kibitzes."
And I don't know what it is about how he says it, just the line itself, and how he's so mean to people that come up that he just thinks some old man is there, and he just cracks me up.
Mm-hmm. I got to ask the same question of Brad, but one thing that you talking about that Andy brings to mind is that I don't want to call him spineless, but he kind of just any way the wind blows. So it was like whenever he had the chance to kind of gang up on Curly, like he would take it, but then there was times that he would protect Curly from Mo, which was kind of weird. But then when it was somebody else outside of their little group, all of a sudden he became super macho and would have no problem putting them in their place. So he just kind of went with it, and when he saw his opportunities, he went for it, which was always
he always when Mo goes away, he tries to become Mo, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
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 I'll show you what for.
Yeah, when he stands up with Curly, leave him alone.
Yeah, yeah. And then he would, but then Mo, like if he stood up to Curly, like Mo would, get him back in line. So it was always a fun dynamic. So Brad, you actually, ironically, even though you're Curly's grandson, you play Andy plays the part of Curly in the modern day Three Stooges. You play Larry's part. So first off, how did that come to be, and why do you feel like you're you're well suited to play Larry?
Yeah, who do you think you are that you think you're going to be a Larry Fine?
Well, we did the live show. We toured 5 or 6 venues before we took a little hiatus from the show. And we had a terrific Curly right here, Andy. We had the most remarkable Mo, and we still do, Chris Dermick. And we had a very good Larry, Danny, and we had previous to that, we had another Larry.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But there's just seemed to be things that weren't gelling, and we weren't living in the same area and stuff. So we needed to find a Larry, and Larry's just seemed to be hard to find, right? They just have a distinctive look.
Right.
You just can't put a wig on someone to a degree and just have a Larry. So they were searching for Larrys. We were going to shows looking for guys. And finally I just said, like, I can be Larry. I mean, I'll try. I've never, the thing is, I'd never even attempted to make a Larry voice in my life. and what happened was Andy was like, really? And he's like, are you sure? I go, yeah, let's try. I mean, we have such good chemistry together. So then all of a sudden, Andy just ran into the closet and started getting costumes, and he dressed me up, and we did a little photo shoot, right?
Oh, right.
Remember?
Yeah.
And it was just so spontaneous.
Let's see if we could do this.
And we did like 5 or 6 shots, and I didn't know what I looked like from the other side of the lens. I just knew that he goes, well, make this face. And he held up a book and do this, do that. And the next day, when you sent me those photos, it was unbelievable that I actually felt like I actually looked like a Larry without even having any training whatsoever and really studying him. And it was just something I fell into, and really it's an honor. And I think of it even more as an honor now that I'm older, just like when I used to look at the other Curlys. Like Curly Howard was always the best, whether I knew he was my grandfather or not. But as I got older, Joe DeRita and Joe Besser meant so much to the team to keep them alive that me just being there, even if it's just a fill-in and looking like Larry and acting like Larry, these guys who are the geniuses, Andy and Chris, I'm allowing them to go on with the show, sort of how the other Curlys did. And so that's kind of how I feel. And yes, I feel as I'm doing it more, I'm getting a little better. And I remember I had to ask Kurt what he thought, because it's the ultimate blessing to have family say whether I can continue as Dean Larry and what you thought. And I believe you.
I'll jump in and I'll say this. First off, some people have said, hey, why don't you do it? And I was like, well, if we were touring the Middle East, maybe. But I do not look like Larry. I have a very dark complexion.
We can make him look lighter.
I could maybe like pull a Vin Diesel impersonation. So that was never going to happen. I can do the voice a little bit, but Brad's actually better. Hey, what are you doing? So it's a little bit in there, but it's not.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It comes out.
Sorry, Brad, you're out. Sorry.
That's okay. I do jump.
But having Brad do it, it's mesmerizing when I'm watching him, because it's almost confusing for me. I'm like, this is Brad. This is my guy. He embodies Curly all the time, but then he flips a switch and now he's my great grandpa and he's doing it better than anybody I've seen do it in the modern era. It's great.
Oh, Mo, I can't get a job. You know I hate to work. Who said anything about work?
Work fascinates me, Mo. I can watch people do it all day long.
Even with fingers in your eyes?
Oh!
I love it. And I'm like, I'm thankful for it that he is doing exactly what he said, keeping these guys rolling. We don't have to go hire some guy or whatever. He's in the family, literally. He's part of this group. So him doing it is a blessing, and I thank him, and it's awesome.
Well, the thing is, it's like it was impossible to find a Larry and find one that, you know, studied Larry, embodied Larry, but also just wanted to play with us. Right. Me and Dermot, I went on the plane as Curly to the first live show.
Wow.
I mean, I was in character the whole way. And me and Brad were goofing around. And then Dermot got into Mo and was just, we would go out in the city.
People love it.
Yeah. Curly and Mo with Curly G, right? Because our Larrys never wanted to come play. They weren't getting paid. They weren't going to be there. And, you know, so he was always game. And we needed somebody who wanted to play and that cared and wanted to do it. And we had Justin Tate for a while when we started on TikTok.
He's too goddamn good looking.
Well, and I was, and he tried. He didn't know the Three Stooges too well, but he tried. I mean, he's an actor.
He's great at it.
He was good, and he really got the voice down. And he would watch it. And I kept trying to get him for the live show earlier before we even, I think, cast Danny. And but then he was too good looking, and it wasn't working. And then we did this experiment, and I think we did a live also with you, like let's transform Brad into Larry live. Right. And for the fans. And they all went nuts. And it's fun. It is trippy.
Yeah, it is. It's cool, though. It's a great homage. And to sacrifice Curly G's persona to do that for us, it's awesome. It means the world to us.
Yeah, that's an honor. It's an honor. And I love to get hit, which is fun. Most Larrys don't.
Here we go. That was a real slap, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it comes through.
It looks so good on the podcast.
Yeah. All the list. I mean, they heard that.
Radio.
Oh, they heard that though. I will tell you that they heard that. All right, so let's get to these questions for Kurt because we got several that we want to get to. So, Larry left us almost 50 years ago, and so I'm gonna guess that you're too young. You don't look old enough. But did you ever actually get a chance to meet your great grandfather?
So yeah, I was born in 74. He passed in 75. So I was about a year old when he passed. But there was a couple times, obviously, where he was like, he held me, and they brought me around, and there's a picture of me in his arms, in his wheelchair. So he met me. I like to say I met him, but I obviously don't remember that. My brother's 3 years older, so he had some really great interactions, and you'll have him on the show, I'm sure, soon. And he has some funny stories about that. So I won't ruin him, but he's great. So yeah, I did meet him technically, but I don't obviously remember. I like to say I did.
Okay. Are there
I can tell you a quick.
Let's hear a story. Let's hear a story.
Real quick story about that is there's the picture of him holding me when I worked on the Tonight Show. We did a segment called like Win Dinner or whatever. So Jay went up in the audience and asked a person, hey, we have a crew member on our crew here who's related to one of the Three Stooges. Try to figure it out. So out comes this big guy, Steve, kind of looked like Curly. Then I came out, and then this other young guy came out who was obviously not related. So it was a little black dude. It was funny. So people were like, nope, that's right. So they asked some questions, and then the guy guessed Steve, the other guy, and Jay's like, no, actually it's Kurt. And here's the proof. And it was Larry holding me on national TV on the Tonight Show. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of like really neat. Like everybody gets to see this moment. And, and me as a little baby was not a cute thing. It was kind of like I had too much hair. Yeah.
But it kind of married your lineage with, something that obviously you were passionate about, getting to work in, audio and video for Jay Leno, one of the most famous comedians in the world. So that must have been a cool feeling.
And Jay did a lot of Stooge homages through the years. And we did a couple other bits too with me with the wig on once. And I'll tell you guys.
Well, and Dermot Armo was on Jay Leno.
Yeah.
The Stooge Fight Club.
Yeah.
Kurt, give us your lineage. So like Larry married Mabel.
Right.
And they had 2 children.
Yep.
And one of them died.
Yeah. Johnny was their son. He passed away at 26, 27. He's pretty young. He did have 3 kids, and then he died driving late night after working on some TV stuff, single car crash. So
John had 3 kids?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's 3 kids from him, John Jr. and Christy Lynn and Phyllis. And then Larry's daughter, Phyllis, had 2 kids, my father, Eric, and my aunt, Chris. And my father just died last December. So he was about 72. We lost him. But my aunt, Chris, is still around, and she's awesome and funny and carries the Larry embodiment around. And maybe we'll get her on the show one day. She's fun.
So she knew Larry, obviously.
She grew up with Larry. And some of the stories I have, like I might get into these, a few for you. They're basically handed down stories. I'll tell you one in a minute when you ask about that. And it's excellent. And they were really good about keeping the stories in the family and telling them so we can keep it living. So that's how it came to be. Larry, Phyllis, Eric, me.
So you mentioned stories. I did want to ask if there was a good family story that you could share with us.
Oh, absolutely. So first off, Larry was the ultimate family man. I just want this to get out there. Like him, there's some stories about him being a gambling addict and a ladies' man, and he liked betting on the horses, but he was not a ladies' man. He adored his wife Mabel more than anything on earth, including his kids. Adored them equally. He was just a family guy. He would do everything and anything. Mabel was a Spitfire Irish. She was a flapper, dancer, singer. She was pretty famous in her own ilk in Ireland, came over to vaudeville, had her career, and then stopped when they started having kids. But she was a drinker, and she would yell things to Larry. She was Irish Catholic. He was Jewish, and she would yell bad names to him, and he just took it and it's my wife. I love her. Didn't matter. As a matter of fact, he wore a pendant on his necklace. It was a Star of David on one side and a St. Christopher on the other. And he's like, this way my wife's happy, and whatever God happens to accept me is happy. I got it all covered. So now it actually was, it's with him when he got married. So we left that with him. Yeah. So he was just a family guy. So that needs to be known, but he would go down the street with my dad and his grandkids and my aunt in Hollywood Boulevard and go into candy shops and literally buy everybody in there, whatever you want, it's on me. He was that kind of guy. Just loved being around every single picture, autograph request. He would do it, spend time with these people. He'd write letters with people back and forth, correspond constantly, especially in his older years. So he was an amazing, just gentle man. And to see the like crazy persona, yeah, he was a joke teller too. We have a tape recording of him telling jokes. And some of them are kind of off color, which is funny. And I'm working on getting that cleaned up so we can use it.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite Larry story though is it's Thanksgiving and they have this nice house up in Hollywood and the whole family's there and some friends, neighbors, whatever, maybe 40, 50 people. They always did a big Thanksgiving and they had the classic kitchen with the swinging doors, right? So my dad is in there shucking the peas and Chrissy everybody has a job in the family, but the Mabel, and she had 4 sisters and they were all Irish. They were all entertainers. Queen Elizabeth was one of their friends. Like they drank tea, which was really Irish whiskey all day long. And they were just blitzed by noon, especially on a holiday. But they didn't wobble around or anything. They just drink all day. And they were a little bit crazy and fiery. So it's almost dinner time. And the amazing thing is these ladies are just drunk and having fun and everybody's going nuts, but the dinners would always come out perfect. Except this one time, my dad said, they're going at it and everything's done. And Larry opens the oven and says, the turkey's done. And Mabel's like, no, it's not. And Larry's like, yeah. And they start fighting and he's trying to pull it out and she's trying to push it back in. And he like yanks it and the turkey flies out of the pan, slides through the doorway, the swinging doors, and it lands like right at the table. And Larry walks out to all the guests who are standing there. He goes, dinner's ready. But it always worked. It always came together. You know what I mean?
Do it in Larry's voice.
Dinner's ready.
Okay, Brad, your turn. Now you do it, Brad.
Oh. That's my favorite family story about Larry. Yeah, there's a lot. Oh, and really one quick one. My dad tells the story. He said he was at their house. Larry lived with them. Nice house in Commonwealth here. And he said he needed help re-wallpapering a bathroom. So he calls Mo. They're done. They're like in their 60s. So he calls Mo over and my dad's sitting in the den, like watching a ball game, but down the other hallway, he turned his chair because he said, this is going to be funny. And it's just Larry and Mo. Wow. So everything is out. They roll out the wallpaper, the paste stuff, they have, it's literally an episode about to go down. My dad's like, this is going to be fun. And sure enough, they're starting to go and Mo starts yelling at Larry about something. And he said, within 5 minutes, they're smacking each other with the paintbrushes, with the paste. The wallpaper's going up and it's being torn and there's bad words. He's like, and they're just going at it. And then he said, 10 minutes later, they come walking down the hallway, hysterically laughing. And he says, Eric, call a handyman to have this room wallpapered. We can't do it.
I love that story.
They literally couldn't help themselves. And that's a real deal. That's just the two of them.
That's Stooges, man.
That is Stooges.
Yeah, that's a great.
That is maybe my favorite story I've ever heard about them. Yep. They were real good friends. Obviously.
Oh, they were great friends. Now, the Mo, Curly, Champ, all brothers. Yeah. And then Larry, though, they considered him family. All the contracts were everything equal share. They're the family's weddings, everything always together. He was a brother.
That's awesome.
And that's why it's so important that Brad and I are friends now.
Absolutely.
And of course, you too, Andy.
I agree. And like, I always say that too, with like Chandler's and her side of the family, Sandy and Jill, Shemp's granddaughters, right? Like you guys are starting to become closer, because the Stooges are bringing you together.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They pulled us apart, but now we've been brought together. Right. And that's a different story for a different time, but it's amazing. Yeah. That we're all together and we're so close.
Yeah. Because Jerry, Shemp's daughter-in-law, who I think is now 91. Right. And she would tell stories about, how close they were, going to visit with Mort, Shemp's son, after Shemp passed away, going to visit Larry at the home.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All of them stayed in touch till the day they each died. They were never without each other. It was awesome. Yeah.
Well, speaking of family, Kurt, you mentioned your dad. I actually got to meet your dad. I interviewed him. I had a history podcast, and I had reached out to C3, and Eric did a 2-part series with me on Larry, which actually ended up being the most downloaded episodes that I ever did, which was really cool. And he was super nice to me, and I really appreciated him taking the time to do that and share a lot with Larry. And Andy wants to beat me up because I lost the audio to those, so I don't know where they're buried.
Kill me.
The
I know.
lost tapes.
Oh.
Yeah, they're buried on some laptop somewhere. I'm gonna keep looking, but
Also,
yeah.
Joan, right? You interviewed.
I interviewed Joan as well for about 20 minutes, and that was
I'm literally touching my heart. Because of her.
Somebody get Geraldo Rivera on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, Andy, I was like thinking that story that Kurt, you were just telling, like, if that was today, Eric would have had his phone out and we would, be able to throw that up on the Curly G, throw that up on the channel. But tell us about Kurt. Tell us a little bit about your dad, though, in terms of, I mean, he worked for C3 for years. And for those that aren't aware, C3 owns the Three Stooges brand. They don't own the shorts, like all the videos and films, but they own some of the later films, and they own the rights, the likeness to the Three Stooges. He worked for that company for years. So just tell us a little bit about his passion for the Stooges and kind of what kept him going with that.
Oh yeah. So like I said, he pretty much grew up with Larry in the house. So he talks about when he was a kid, it was just pop. That's what we call Larry. So, and I love that some of the fans do, and some of the friends, he's so pop. So Dad, Eric, grew up with pop, and he said he would be, in the house, and there'd be a doorbell ring, and Cary Grant would be there. He's like, "Hey, is Pop home?" And Dad's like, "Yeah." And this is like his favorite actor. He's trying to be cool, but they lived down the street, and they wanted to come say hi to Larry, and hang out and get ice cream and whatever. So he's like, growing up with that, it was surreal, but it was real. That was his life as a kid. And then his father, Grandpa Don Lamond, was a pretty big sportscaster, radio personality, and actor in his own right. Yep. So my dad grew up in this. And then as a kid, he was also an actor, a kid actor. He was the Welch's Candy Boy, they called it. He was Sugar Baby, Sugar Daddy, Welch's Soda in all their ad campaigns and commercials. And he had a actress in there with him that was the mom, and she was like his stage mom. So he was like, people thought that was his real mom when he was a kid. That was funny. So he did a little bit of acting himself and got into it. But then like around high school, he got into like golf and sports and wanted to kind of do his own thing and didn't want to work in the studios really. So he met my mom, and they had a couple kids, and he went off and kind of got out of the industry for a while. I think being in it his whole life, he wanted to try some new different stuff. And Vietnam was popping off. So he was in the Air Force. So he kind of interrupted what was going on with his life. And then eventually he came back in, he kind of circled back after a few business ventures and whatnot. He said, I need to work with the Stooges. This is my life, my passion. And he came back and he became the director of marketing and publicity for 30 years and did a great job. And he was telling stories like I just told, like, off the cuff, and he had dozens of them, and people would call in to the offices.
Dozens of them. Sorry. Couldn't let that one go.
Yeah, exactly. People would want to, talk about Larry or ask questions, and he would give them time. And that was an amazing, he was super charming, super funny. He had one-liners, me and my brother still use some. One of them is like, after a really complicated, confusing story, he'll say, he's like, and then they threw me the keys to the submarine. We're like, what does that even mean? But this is one of those lines. Like, I guess it's like, figure it out, Or he would say, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? He'd always have these little, he'd end every story or whatever with a joke. And it's very funny, but kind of a dry comedy wit, Bob Newhart-ish. But he was just so passionate about the Stooges and like the fans, some people could see it as this might get annoying that they're coming up and they're calling and they're asking and they want to, talk to him for hours and hours and hours, what it meant to them. But he never, ever walked away first from any of these conversations or meetings at conventions or anything. These people would literally thank and walk away. It was never rushing people at all. And I thought that was amazing.
And he was doing it like in the 80s when they had their real resurgence, right?
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Stooges really got popular again. They started a lot of merchandise, the Curly Shuffle.
Oh, yeah. Michael Jackson was a huge fan and he came to the convention. Right?
Michael Jackson came to the convention?
He came all dressed in like a beekeeper suit. He was wandering around all day. And then he unveiled himself and started a pie fight.
Oh, that's awesome.
No. There has to be footage or
we
pictures of this somewhere.
There's a lot of footage out there we need.
So he was Michael Jackson. This is maybe it was mid 80s, one of the Burbank conventions. Yeah, and then he wanted to have a Three Stooges themed restaurant. And so we met him, my dad and them met him at some hotel, Beverly Hilton or whatever. And it was 3 chairs and then one chair. And that was it. All the furniture was removed. He was a pretty eccentric dude. And then he said that he wanted to help make a movie, but he insisted on playing Curly.
Very strange. Yeah.
And
That's very strange.
that obviously wasn't going to happen. So,
I'm not surprised somehow.
right.
Right.
I didn't mean to turn this into a Michael Jackson segment. My dad dealt with all this craziness, like all these juggling, all this craziness all the time, but always managed to keep it on an even keel and keep everybody kind of in place. And he was a master of that.
And your grandfather was in, so he did those Curly Joe films, the features. And
yeah. So Grandpa Don was my favorite role. Don Lamond was Rance Rodin in Outlaws Is Coming. Yeah. He's the bad guy. So, and my dad tells a great story about that. It is like all the 12 bad guys. They were all like TV personalities from across the country. So you can look into that, talk about that in another episode. So Don is the main bad guy, Rance Rodin. He's the nemesis. So he's given this speech and he's like, two guys are like messing around and he slaps the table down. He's like, pay attention or get out. And my dad's like, that was real. He's like, he got so scared when he saw that in the movie. He's like, oh my God, he's yelling at them and he means it. That's him being dad. Grandpa Don was amazing, like good looking guy, kind of had that perfect hair and that cool voice.
Well, he had a great voice. He did the narration for Meet Hercules. So he's me Hercules.
Yeah, he was the narrator. Yeah.
So great.
He had the Three Stooges TV show every day at 5:00 on KTV. Right. I have a commercial that I have actually on my YouTube channel where he's explaining and then he takes a pie to the face. He's like, I'll be there if I can make it. And he just gives the face. Awesome. So it's pretty cool that he was dialed in.
And he just, which again, you mentioned him being a legit actor. He appeared on Magnum PI, Hawaii Five-0, The Fugitive, like this. He was a legit actor, but for years, as you said, hosted a show that basically showed the Stooges on KTTV in Los Angeles. He just passed away 2015, I believe. He's like 88, something along those lines.
He was pushing 90. He was pretty old, but he golfed to the end. He was like a 2 handicap. I mean, a real quick story about that. He lived in Vegas, and I also lived out there at the time. I went to UNLV, so we'd visit all the time. I'd go golf with him, and he was a great golfer, and I sucked, and it was a problem because he would yell at me. He was like, "Why can't you just hit it down the middle?" I was like, "This game's hard, Grandpa." So I show up. It's 118 degrees, and I show up to his little country club. I'm wearing shorts because it's 118 degrees, and he's old school. He came to my wedding in like a electric blue suit with sunglasses on. He's old school Hollywood. So I'm wearing the shorts. He looks at me and he says, "Where's the rest of your pants?" And I was like, he's old school. And he was serious. I was like, Grandpa, it's pretty high. He's like, "Go in my locker and get some pants. You're not walking on my course in shorts." I was like, okay. So I open his locker, yellow, lime green, light blue, pink, white. I was like, I'm wearing the pink pants today. And he had the shoes and the socks and the shirts to match. Just an old school Hollywood guy, man. It was really cool to be around him. Yeah, he had some great stories.
And in researching this, by the way, I noticed that he was buried in a pet cemetery, which I was like, what's that about? And apparently he was really into his poodles because he was he was buried.
They had about 6 poodles together, him and his second wife, Susie. So my grandma passed away in 89, but he remarried and they had lots of love for their poodles. And they were a big, big part of their life. And they had framed pictures of them all over the house. So the will was, when we're all gone, we all go to the pet cemetery together. As a matter of fact, we just did that about 3 weeks ago where we put them in there because Susie just passed away recently. So, yep, they are in the pet cemetery in Las Vegas on Craig Road. If anybody wants to go visit. That's amazing. But the hilarious thing is like Don Lamond, Susie Lamond, Stardust, Moonglow, and all the other dogs. And then right around him is like Buttons, Butch, Skippy.
That's great.
It's funny.
Where's your grandmother buried?
So Grandma Phyllis, Larry's daughter, is right here in Glendale at the Forest Lawn. Yeah, kind of. Larry's in the mausoleum, and she's like around the corner, right by a tree. It's nice. So they're pretty close to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to go out and visit. We haven't gone out there.
Absolutely.
Yet. Yeah. So you said Larry was living with your father?
They all lived in the same house together after Larry's wife died.
Oh, I see. Because I had read.
Mabel,
I thought that they were out. They lived in hotels mostly after they sold the house after John died. Is that right? Yeah.
So they lived. She didn't want to do housework and cook and clean. So, and he was on the road half the time. So she didn't want to be alone. Really, she felt kind of like, So she, for a dozen or so, maybe 8 years or whatever after John died, they lived in the Roosevelt Hotel right here in Hollywood, and that was as a big suite, and he paid whatever, and that's where they lived. And she took everything was easy for her that way, and that's kind of the way she was. And then when she passed away, then they had a nice big house that they all lived in together.
That's nice.
So he could be around family after that because he didn't want to be alone. And they kind of stopped doing shows. They're still touring and doing some of the features. So he was there with them until he went to the motion picture home.
And she passed away while he was on the road on stage, right?
Yeah. He got somebody told him like, come here, you got a telegram, like type of thing. And she just, it was a quick little heart attack thing right there in the hotel. So he was heartbroken though. He couldn't do anything for a while, but he recovered and still did some stuff. The show must go on.
Right.
And he was pretty tough about that.
So is that home still there that he was in, the motion picture home?
The motion picture home is up in Woodland Hills.
Mm-hmm.
It's really awesome. If anybody who has acting credits, production credits, direct, like anything to do with Hollywood can live up there. It's all benefactored, through the people. They give a lot to it, but it's awesome. And there's celebrities up there and, regular crew people up there. And it's a really neat thing.
I keep finding online more and more celebrities back in the day, like Bob Saget went to go visit him.
Yep.
And Ed Asner, who I had a chance to meet and sit and have lunch with once, but I didn't know he had gone, and he used to go visit Larry Fine. I would have loved to have asked him about that.
And there's Tom Bergeron did the big interview with him. So and Howard Stern put those tapes out. Tom, that was cool. That was up there, motion picture. A lot of people did some stuff. We had a UCLA film student interviewed him, and we have that digitized recently. So we'll share that with everybody soon.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
That's great. I had the pleasure and I was blessed to actually meet your father on a handful of occasions, 4 or 5 times. And of course, this is when I went to see Three, and obviously it wasn't part of my life for most of my life. And he was so engaging and so pleasant and so kind to me that when I went back, I knew that I would feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And he always made me feel comfortable. And, I only knew him a short period of time, but I definitely felt something in my heart for him, and I met you and stuff. And I know why you're such an amazing man is because your father was amazing.
Well, thank you.
Such a kind man.
And he actually told me, he's like, hey, you and Brad need to do some stuff. That kid is talented and hilarious. And he's like, he's a walking curly. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It is weird.
Yeah.
It is weird because Brad's brother's not like that, right? Your brother's not.
He's
like, super talented.
Yeah, he's ultra talented,
but he doesn't have the curly gene.
He's not comedic. Like comedy isn't his thing.
And the fact that you're a grandson, you're one step closer. I'm a great grandson, and we're about the same age. But we were a little more traditional. But Curly had kids a little bit like earlier. You guys had like the early and the late thing going on.
Right.
So you're a generation closer, which is really cool.
Right.
I mean, you're the living embodiment of the Stooges.
So, Kurt, do you go when you go out and about? Do you tell people?
Oh, I lead with it.
Yeah, I do it with Brad. I force it on everybody.
Yeah. That depends. It depends. I mean, it comes out like my wife will roll her eyes sometimes. She's like, "You had to get that in." I'm like, "Absolutely." It's been beneficial. I've gotten free drinks from it. It's opened a lot of doors business wise. I coach soccer now, and I always ask my kids about it, and they're like, no. And we had a recent team meeting where I made the kids watch a little bit of it, and they're like, that's funny. I was like, all right, see? And then all the dads and stuff are like, wait a minute, you're what? So then I got to talk about it. So yeah, it comes out probably all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother's a lot less open. Like he's a little more introverted than I am. He's awesome. You guys will love him when you get him on here.
Yeah.
So, but we'll go out together, and I'm like, hey, we are, and then he's like, you don't have to do that every time. I'm like, yeah, I do, brother.
Yeah, you do.
That's what Andy does to me.
I do it every time we go out. You and Chandler, I just swear, hey, you a Stooge fan? You like the Three Stooges? And then you wait for their reaction. And more often than not, it's yes, right? Which is strange. I not what I guess.
And when they say no, we just let them walk off.
Yeah, we don't say anything. Yeah. They just think we're weirdos.
No, I do have on occasion people like, just happened today. People are like, oh, you're lying. That's not true. There's no way. I'm like, why? If I was going to lie about anything, why would I pick the Stooges? Why would I pick Larry? I would take, obviously, I'd pick Curly or Mo. I look like Mo more. And it's like, so obviously I'm not lying. Yeah.
That's a very specific lie if you are lying.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I'm really digging for something there, right?
Well, and I used to say the same thing as a kid too. And I was explaining and telling, they wouldn't believe me. And I would say too, I mean, yeah, very popular, obviously.
Right.
But why would I pick that out of the blue?
Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Has anybody ever said, oh, I don't like the Stooges. I don't care for them. They're not my thing. To you after they find out?
women. There's
Yeah.
some women that'll say that, but
Yeah.
most men know.
Wait, you're sure this in the Stooges and not you?
Oh.
And not like, oh,
Why,
I'm going to use this
yada?
moment then to call a celebrity out, Phil, if you don't mind.
Sure, go
So
for it.
I worked in TV and movies in Hollywood for many before C3, Tonight Show, and a lot of other shows. I worked at Fox Sports shows, whatever. So it would come when I'm talking to some of these celebrities, like I worked on Fox NFL, Terry Bradshaw, those guys. They love the fact that I'm the Stooge guy, and we palled around about it. It was whatever. I wasn't looking for anything, but it always come out. There was one guy who I worked on his show, and it came like somebody was like, it was Jim Rome, the sports guy.
Mm.
And he's good at what he does, where he's cool. We got along. We talked a little bit. I'm just the audio guy putting the mics up or whatever. And somebody's like, oh, hey, Jim, Kurt is something about the Stooges came up. He's like, oh, Kurt is Larry's great grandson. And Jim just looked at me and he goes, never cared for them. I was like, well, okay. I mean, I might have handled that a little differently if I was you, but it was the most honest reaction from anybody I've ever gotten. Like, if they don't care for him, they're like, oh yeah, they were okay. But he was just like straight faced. I don't care for them. And that was the end of it. I was like, yeah, we never talked about it again.
All right, fine. I guess whose mic isn't going on correctly this time. Yeah. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So getting back to Larry a little bit, I not that we haven't been talking about him, but we kind of talked a little bit about, and Andy, you talked about your feelings about Larry, but is there for all three of you, when you start with Kurt, is there a bit or an episode or a film or whatever, a short, anything that sticks out in your mind that it's like, this is quintessential Larry, like this is my great grandfather, this makes me laugh, whatever? Is there like a specific short or anything like that jumps out at you?
Yeah, what's funny is there's two specific, three. One of them Andy already mentioned. So Disorder in the Court, and it's a public domain short, so it's been seen 1 billion times.
Right.
But there is that scene in the courtroom where he kills what he thinks is the tarantula.
A tarantula!
And then he does the Tarzan bit, and it is so not Larry. It is awesome. And has always been my favorite, just because it's like all of a sudden he's totally unhinged. And then Mo puts him back in place and he's all the way back to normal again. I love that moment because it's so different.
right.
It is perfect. And then another one, which I love this scene. It's three little pigskins when they're the football players, and they roll into the hotel room, and it's these pretty girls, and one of them is Lucille Ball.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I love Lucy, so it's one of her very first scenes, and he just posts up on her, kneels down, and does the thing, and starts flirting with her. He's like, "Hey, babe, you're just my type of woman, And it's like he's like just hitting on Lucille Ball, and I'm like the iconness, if that's a word, of what's going on in that 2-minute scene is awesome. So I love that. And I have some great still 8x10s of the two of them, which are awesome. The original Columbia stills, and I'll bring them on and share them with you guys. But to me, that's just so cool to see. And then I think you're going to talk about it in one of your future episodes, the You Nasty Spy and I'll Never Heil Again. Mm-hmm. The character he plays in that, there's a lot of political jokes and farce jokes and well-written jokes where it's not just slapstick, really. And he has, off the top of my head, I'm not going to ruin him right now, but he's got a lot of really good jokes. And it's like good acting. You know what I mean? So that's my favorite 2 episodes of him. And that's, by the way, that's the only episode they ever made a sequel to.
Right.
It's a little trivia.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
Wow. I used to think Disorder in the Court, the Tarzan scene, I always...
Does anybody know if that was scripted? I don't know. Does anybody know if that was scripted?
I would imagine it was. But I don't know.
Who wrote that? How do you come up with that?
I mean, it was one of their earlier ones, right? It was one of their earlier ones.
It was a strong episode.
And like you said, it's not typical Larry. I mean, there's a couple not typical Larrys throughout.
Yeah.
But that moment, usually they're not typical Larry shorts, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like the first one, like Woman Haters or whatever.
Oh.
It's just not typical Three Stooges, I guess.
Cuckoo on a Choo-Choo when he's the tough guy. I don't like that.
Which is his favorite. Right?
He loved it because he was like a serious actor. But I don't like that one. It's just too rough.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one's the one that always comes to mind. But watching him more and watching more Stooges lately than ever, because we're living the Stooges, I find his nuances when he's not doing anything is probably the funniest thing of all, because he's keeping himself busy in the background. And if you just were to focus on what Larry's doing, it's hysterical.
Yep.
He's so brilliant. And he is the nucleus to the other two Stooges that make them work. And so, what about you, Andy?
Well, so I think I mentioned the two earlier, right? But the plumbing we will go when he sticks his head up out of the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And the butler comes up and he's just like, beat it. Don't tell me how to do my job.
Right.
But he's just like randomly, weirdly like angry to everybody.
Yes.
Right.
And I just, the iconic image from the first, the first Three Stooges title card where him in the middle with the very thin, he's got the huge hair. Like I absolutely love that image of Larry. But as I'm looking now and actually working with Brad and trying to find a Larry and helping Brad trying to find who Larry is, I've come to like look at a lot of his later photos on the record albums and comic books, and Larry is he hams it up, and he's so good. He's so good at every one of these faces that he makes are so expressive. They're so funny. They're so ridiculous. And I think he just got more and more as the years went on, right? He kind of hyped up his reactions to everything. And there's a moment in one of the songs where we're coming to your house, and then he just bursts out to break up the joint.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The Philly guy.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about it now.
Slangy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like out of the blue, just it's like this, everything just takes this turn.
He had a lot of those weird little like slangy one-off lines too. Like we're probably a little insensitive at times.
Yes.
Like, but he knew those things and he would hit them out. And one last thing is the dancing. When he would do the Russian, down. I should know the name of that exact dancing. He was good at that.
Really good.
Very
at that.
athletic.
Yeah.
I tried
it. Not easy.
I tried it and I couldn't get up for like 7 minutes.
I've seen like reels and stuff shared of the Stooges dancing and with modern day music, right? And it's which is awesome. And Larry, I know Curly obviously gets the the shuffle and stuff, but Larry did the shuffle in Shemp shorts, like after obviously after Curly was gone. And Larry is he is really hilarious to watch in those. And to round it out, one of, not that I'd say it's my favorite, but it just sticks in my mind because kind of what we're talking about. My kid's favorite short is Restless Nights. They make me watch that like 2-3 times a week. And the wrestling scene where Larry's playing the referee and he's sliding his hand underneath Curly's shoulder to see if he's pinned, and he's like a little lower, and then Mo slams Curly's elbow on his head, knocks him out, and he's like, oh, get in the way again. And then him and Mo start wrestling, and it's just Larry was in a lot of, I know like Mo is kind of considered the glue that holds the group together, but I really think Larry in a lot of ways was the one that kind of he kind of mitigated between the two of them. And he's underrated, unfortunately.
Well, and you see his brain work. Like I'm thinking like in something like Dizzy Pilots where Mo, he gets all the rubber on him and they kind of like blow him up. Right. And he floats up, and then Larry's got to kind of take control to try to figure out how to get him down. Right. And Curly's going to shoot him and he's like, no, use that. Use this so you don't miss, Right. It's like, soon as Mo's gone, Larry's brain starts. Working.
If it got too far away, he pulled it in. If it was too close, he pushed it out. Like he was, just like that perfect expansion and retraction. He was that kind of comedian.
Have you read Stroke of Luck, Larry's book?
I have, and it's like grammatically a disaster. That's a whole nother story, but that guy kind of ripped him off.
Yeah,
the author,
and it's filled with all kinds of errors.
A lot of half the stuff isn't correct. That guy just like filled in the blanks with what he thought might have happened. It's rough. It's a cool thing to have artifact wise because there's so few. And Larry wanted it to be done and done well, but he died before it really got finished. And this dude just took liberties and ripped off the family and everything else. It's ugly.
So it's amazing that actually out of all the Stooges, Larry's the only one who's got 3 books written about him specifically.
Yeah.
Right? It's Stroke of Luck, which is his autobiography. Then it's the one your uncle, I guess his brother.
His brother Mo did Stooge in the Middle.
And then Steve Cox did one fine Stooge.
Yeah, that's the best one.
Yeah. So what's Larry's brother Mo, right?
Yeah.
He wrote one Stooge in the middle.
Yeah.
And that also has errors in it.
There's some things in there that we probably need to fix and rewrite. And I think we should. My dad was going to redo Stroke of Luck actually and cobble that together before he passed. But the Mo one it wasn't really him. It was like the editor from the publishing house that kind of tightened things up or whatever, just clipped a few things out, changed a few things. So yeah, he kind of got screwed on that.
So you must have known him, Larry's brother.
Never met him.
Oh,
but I did meet Larry's sister, Lila. She was 20 years or 17 years younger than Larry. So she was around a lot. Yeah, I knew her really well.
I met her at the Stooge convention, I believe in Philly in '87. Is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
She was at that one?
Yeah, she was there. Yeah, she was around. She didn't die till like the mid 90s. So yeah, she was cute and funny and just a little miniature female version of Larry. kind of crazy. Yeah.
Was she in show business?
No. I think education. Yeah. But her husband, Nate, did some of the sound effects in some of the movies.
All right. So we got just a couple more questions. Kurt, I wanted to ask you about the merch shop. So that's obviously one of the ways that you're continuing the legacy on. So tell us about the shop, Knuckleheads merch shop, and go ahead and plug it. But yeah, tell us kind of what the mindset is there and what kind of merchandise you got going there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. So it's shopknuckleheads.com. It started as an actual store here in Los Angeles in one of the big malls as a physical walk-in store, Three Stooges merchandise, t-shirts, hats, whatever, dolls, everything. And that the retail kind of fizzled out. And there was a catalog that went along with it that we would mail out every year for many, many years, starting in the early 80s. So that catalog would go out and people would do mail order. And that obviously ended as the internet dawned. So the internet, the website was built by a guy who kind of licensed it out and said, I'll do it for you guys. And it was a cool website. It was early on in internet sales days, even before Amazon and everything else. And then he had to go back to Norway or wherever he was from. So I was in charge of trying to find somebody to replace him and, continue the shop because it did good business and people wanted stuff, and so I couldn't find anybody. So my brother's a master's degree in information technology. He can build websites in his sleep. So I was like, hey man, we're going to have to just do this, dude. And so my brother Don said, okay, let's do it. So he took the site that was already built and fixed it all up. And so we've been running it together for the better part of 10 years now. And it's 7, 8 years. And it's the main thing for us is it's not a huge money maker. It sounds weird to say, but we really want to keep stuff out there for people that care. And we have a big fan base, and a lot of people that repeat buy and Christmas presents and stuff like that for their uncles and their dads and their grandpas. And it's cool. We do as much as we can with new product and new imagery to kind of, modernize, if you will, or just not the same old stuff. And people appreciate it. And that's the main thing for us is it kind of runs itself financially, which is great. And we have fun with it. We do different merch things. We used to do Facebook Lives. We've kind of gotten off that a little bit for a few reasons. Our social media person left. We're trying to get it back though. So with these guys though, with Andy and Brad, we're going to start doing a lot more on their lives. And, we have,
we'll join you.
Yeah, I know.
Sure.
I know. You guys, yeah,
we did one.
Yeah, we did some stuff. Yeah. And we went out to some locations and did a Facebook Live once and, to sell some of the merchandise that was associated with that. So it's a lot of fun and it's a great place for people to get, anything Stooges that's out there really. There's some pirate junk out there on eBay and whatever I would try to avoid. But for our stuff, it's all, licensed. It's all fun. We have some DVDs and documentaries and thousands of t-shirt designs and hoodies and blankets and playing cards. And the trading cards are hard to find. We have all of them. It's neat. So yeah, go to shopknuckleheads.com and use code LOYAL10 to save 10% because you're a friend of the podcast.
There you go.
LOYAL10, all one word, LOYAL10. Save 10% on shopknuckleheads.com.
We're telling everyone.
Wait, I shopped earlier today and I didn't know the code.
I'll send you $3 back.
Just cover
You
the
got
shipping.
the one where it added 10%.
Hey,
So thank you, Phil, for letting me do that. It is, and it's fun. Join our you sign up and you get the emails, and we send out emails a couple times a week. So sometimes little fun facts and discounts and offers. It's cool.
Is Curly the most popular Stooge in the sales?
Curly is obviously the most popular, but people want Shemp stuff. And so we've had to add Shemp stuff. And people want all 4 of them on something, and there's the one photo from Hold That Lion we use, and we've done some cartoony things with the 4 of them. But yeah, and then there's a little bit of an outcry of not enough Besser.
Yeah, I said that earlier before we started.
So we put a few Besser things up recently, but yeah, Shemp is like, for instance, we have some action figures, like little dolls, like, and people are like, I just want to buy. I put all 4 of them together because if I didn't, we would sell out of the Curlies. Oh, right. Then I'd have like everybody else just kind of sitting around.
Oh, that's smart. I want a Shemp Spumco doll. You know,
those are hard to find.
Yeah.
The which I'm for those that are listening, you can't see it, but I am wearing one of my my Raglan jersey, Three Stooges one. So I enjoyed that. I have the Hold That Lion t-shirt as well, which is also pretty cool. But you got the hat. Yeah.
Kurt brought me a Three Stooges bucket hat.
Nice. And then you also like some of those you do, kind of modern takes on stuff like the legalized Shemp, instead of legalized hemp and, stuff like that. You guys do some modern stuff with that stuff too.
Yeah, we do we've gotten in a little trouble once with one of our designs was a little too close to Jack Daniels.
Oh, okay.
So we had to take that one off. But yeah, we did Better Call Curly instead of Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And that has all 4 faces on it. It's like Shemp's face or whatever. So yeah, we play with it, and you're allowed to a certain degree as long as you're not
spoof.
Yeah, spoofing is totally fine.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, the Just Say Mo.
Oh yeah, we still have Just Say Mo.
Yeah.
And Mo, when the whole Mo
knows.
Yeah.
Great shirts.
Yeah.
My dad had the Just Say Mo sweatshirt from like the 80s. Like he has the original one somewhere.
So, that's awesome.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Those are good.
So you mentioned the website, but outside of that, I know you also have some social media. Kurt, where can, if anybody wants to reach you, what's the best way to reach you? Where can they find you online?
Well, we have the shop Knuckleheads, Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is the best place. And then if you want, obviously, just Three Stooges, not just the shop, the Three Stooges Facebook is the best place together. There's 1.5 million people there. And I would suggest just join that. We're always popping stuff on, offers, discounts, messages, announcements for Stooges. So and I know Facebook is a little bit of an older crowd. These guys handle the TikTok and Instagram. But the Facebook is kind of a good landing spot for our folks and our content because it is a little bit slower paced and bigger and, old school. So I suggest that. And there's one other group I got to shout out. It's a guy named Trent Reeve as a group. It's Three Stooges Collectibles. If you're looking to buy unique things or sell unique things or just talk about it, that's the best group out there. And Trent, I think, should be a guest on your show one day.
Yeah, we're planning on it. I've already talked with him.
He's amazing. He's seen everything ever made. He knows more than I do, and it kind of blows me away and embarrasses me at times. But Trent's great. So that's a fun site to go on, Three Stooges Collectibles as well on Facebook.
Trent is the guy. So I showed Kurt when he got here, the very first merchandise that the Stooges ever had made were the hand puppets, right? From the 30s.
Oh, yeah.
And the only one we have, Brad and I have in our collection, is the Larry one that was owned by Mo. And we got it through Trent Reeve.
That is.
Yeah, he was, it's gone from Mo to Trent to us.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he's amazing. And we have gotten a lot of stuff through Trent that we share with our audience. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Brad, you have a big audience or Facebook presence too, right? Your Curly's Grandson's Corner.
Curly's Grandson's Corner, Curly's Grandson, Instagram, TikTok, all those places.
We're easy to find.
Yeah, Brad, your Facebook group is over 27,000 members at this point, and your Instagram's growing, your YouTube's growing. If you're watching this on his YouTube channel. So yeah.
We have the best fans in the world on our channel.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, they're so loyal, and we just we enjoy we try to do our weekly show, and they're waiting for it. And they say there's more than a handful that say they wait all week to watch us do our thing and talk Stooges. So the Stooges are more than just alive. They're blossoming and they're growing, and we're going to keep doing what we do and keeping on your great show and our great show and keep hanging out with this guy, Kurt. Cause he's
Kurt,
the
when
best.
you join our live, you'll see that you can't read the comments fast enough.
Mm-hmm. I've watched. No, I've chimed in too with some silly jokes.
Oh, and we've missed it because it goes by so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
We want to wrap up things here. We are going to be, you'd mentioned, Kurt, that You Nasty Spy. We are going to be covering that pretty soon. I'm really excited about that. That's going to be a rewatch episode. We're not planning on doing every single film or short necessarily, but we're going to kind of cherry pick and the ones that grab our interest and the ones that we want to talk about or whatever, or there's a lot of background material, that sort of thing. We're planning to cover those. And then also, yes, we're planning on having Trent on the show. There's some other super long time super fans that we're planning to have on the show as well. It's a little intimidating. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I don't want to be called out by these guys for getting information wrong or inaccurate, but I'm really looking forward to that as well. And then of course, we want to continue to have other great guests like Kurt on, other family members, want to have Chandler on eventually and folks like that. So let me ask Andy and Brad, upcoming projects. You talked about the live shows on Thursday. Can you share what you guys got going on? Anything that's coming up that you guys want to mention?
So, right now we do our live every Thursday where we talk to people. And then Friday nights, I started to do a live painting of the Stooges where we kind of hang out and we just run the Stooges on TV and I paint a picture and I kind of talk to the fans, but they mostly interact with themselves and each other. And Brad, you chime in the comments, and Dermot from Abu Dhabi. And I know Chandler does. And Kurt, you said you did.
Yeah, I watch them and play around with the folks. So,
and then, Brad and I have, we have the YouTube channel that we're trying to put up as much content as we possibly can. We still do versions of, now they used to just be TikToks as the Stooges, but now they're going on Instagram and they're going on YouTube as shorts. And we do 4 different versions of each joke. And we give one to C3 for theirs. We give one for my channel and one for Dermot's and one for yours. And, then we compile them. And we have some web series, and Brad and I have been working on a scripted series where, he is basically, one lone Stooge out there in the world, making a mess of things that we're trying to get out to you guys. And it's, it's been slow moving, but we're working hard. We got a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we want to kind of surprise everyone.
Fun.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Listeners, you can't see this obviously, but viewers, for those of you that aren't aware, all the paintings that you see, Andy did all of those paintings, correct?
Yes, sir.
Those are
color by number, right?
Yeah, color by number. I actually thought it'd be fun to do it in character once. So like when Dermot comes back, like me, Brad, and Dermot do as the Three Stooges, and I'll actually paint something.
It's gonna get messy.
Yeah, I know it is.
That'd be like Mo and Larry doing the paper hanging in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listeners and viewers, thank you again for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. We hope that you will come back and partake in more of the official Three Stooges podcast. But for now, so long.
Thank you. And humanity.